WEEI Late Night with KJ on EEI.
Yeah. Just in time for Mardi Gras. No one's going. KJ Late Night on WEEI, part of the WEEI Sports Radio Network. Thank you so much for hanging out. I'm looking at a rumor that just dropped, earlier. It says that the 49ers have called the Panthers to discuss a potential trade for Teddy Bridgewater. Stay tuned. Does that affect Jimmy G? Oh, I know it's in my prayers tonight. Please, Lord, no, Bill. Which gets to, I saw a recent odds book on who would be the starting quarterback on day one for the Patriots 2021. Now, full disclosure, I have been somewhat of almost kind of like a bad agent for Mitch Trubisky. I don't know, maybe I'm not taking my Advil correctly. I think the bottle says it's take orally. I'm not sure, but still. See, there you go. But when you get to the odds, imagine yourself having $100 in your hand, and you say, okay, I want to bet to win, but I also want to bet to be right. So there has to be some type of flexibility in there, all right? So let's start with the biggest name that's been ballyhooed around, and you can hit the buzzer again right now. Marcus Mariota. This guy has so many inner workings in his contract, and Bill being a cheap guy, I did the math. Like, if he went 0-16, like, he would still make $2 million. But if he went like 10-6, he would make like $2.5 million. But there's a clause says if he plays all 16 games, then there's like a $12 million kicker. Guess what happens on week 6? Oh, guess what? There's even 17 games this year. Did you get that adjusted in your contract? Hold off on that Mariota bet at 5-2, because knowing Bill, sit him down on week 16, week 17, it's like, oh no, your contract only calls for 16 games, and this is a 17-game season. So you didn't finish the whole season as the starter, but you played your 16 games. 5-2, no. You can go ahead and hit the buzzer on this one, too. Jacoby Brissett. When's the last time this guy's played? Here? He had like 6 good weeks in Indy, and then they saw the film. It was over. That's why I always say be careful of these guys that get into the game 4 or 5 weeks to like, oh, he is the next coming of. And then everybody sees your tape and they go like, whatever happened to? So we can knock him off the list. This whole bit might prove how crazy I am. This one's funny. In fact, let me say it first and then you hit the buzzer. Jarrett Stidham is a 4-1 odds favorite. What are they watching? The New England Revolution? What would tell you that Jarrett Stidham is a 4-1 option?
Because he's already on the roster and he's cheap.
Oh, well, that's a real good reason.
Well, like we've talked about before the show, I don't think that they're going to come close to a Super Bowl. I think that internally they probably know that.
That's fine. Bill Belichick get a team to 10-6, then take it from there. Jarrett Stidham. Oh God, that's a sucker's bet right there. Hang on, kids, it gets better. At a 5-1 odds to be the starting quarterback on day one of 2021 for the New England Patriots, Cam Newton. Yes, if you just heard the last break, I would make that odds 1-5. Hey, give me $1 and I'll give you $5 just to put him on the bench. So Cam at 5-1 now. My partner on Sunday, Brian Barrett. Am I using a partner word? Okay, I'm kidding. My partner on Sunday, Brian Barrett, is really high on this one at 5-1. A rookie starting at quarterback for 2021. Hit that X button. This is Bill Belichick we're talking about. This is the guy who intimidates young quarterbacks. He's going to put one out there right away? Have your own quarterback saying, I see ghosts? No. This one, I'm like, I forgot about this guy. At a 7-1 odds to start on game one for the New England Patriots, Blaine Gabbert. No. They must really hate New England with these things right here. All right. Coming in at an 8-1 odds to to be the quarterback for the New England Patriots next year, Andy Dalton. Give me that X. That dude literally SHAT his pants in a football game. And none of his teammates came to help him up. I guess if you've got that in your pants, you'll be like, bro, you got to handle that. Get under that cover over there or something.
So just to keep track, there's not one so far that you...
Not a single one. And these are the ones with the best odds.
Okay.
Isn't that crazy? Usually they tell you what the lower odds are.
Yeah, I mean, see, personally, I think that Bill is going to draft a QB, and you may feel the same way.
Yeah, in the later rounds.
And because of the same reason you said that he's not going to play him in his first year, that's why I think you very well may see Cam come back and or sit him because they are cheap options.
Just as a backup.
Well, Bill's trying to find the quarterback of the future, and so he has no reason to bring in any stopgap because it's pointless. They're not going to win anyway.
The gap is already stopped. Right. It is overflowing with suckiness in New England right now, and we're 7-9. Imagine all these other cities. Imagine if you're doing talk radio, sports radio right now in Jacksonville. What are you talking about? Hanging out at Publix, is there a gator in your backyard? And maybe we get sunshine and we can win 2 games this year. We're lucky here. Now, this one is intriguing. Get the check mark ready. At 10-1, Desean Watson. I like that, and here's why it may sound like a crazy odd. Pastor Jack, Almighty Cal Jr., and that whole organization with the Houston Texans, and Nick Caserio, who's now like the Sunday school teacher, right? If they're like, they all have their roles. Like you got Pastor Jack, Nick the Sunday school teacher, then the new guy, he teaches Sunday school too. And then you've got the owner who's kind of like, my culture here in Texas is more important than your wins and losses sheets. There's a relationship there in that front office. And I know Caserio wanted to get out of there a couple years ago and all these other things that happened. But funny things happen when people have relationships. Think about an ex that you probably couldn't stand, but, as time went on, you might have became Facebook friends. And if they had a disaster in the family, you might have written something. Looks a lot different than day one when you broke up and you called him every name in the book. So keep that in the back of your mind. Desean Watson at a 10-1 odds can only happen because of the relationship between Easterby, between Caserio, between Bill, and Desean Watson wanting to get the hell out of there. At 12-1, this is funny, Brian Hoyer? Thank you. I didn't even have to tell you bring out the X. We've seen that. This guy has pretty much soured everybody after that Kansas City game, when you had everything in the world against the team, and probably in the first time in the history of the NFL, a football team traveled across country, across time zones, played a game that night, and you had a chance to win the game, and you blew it.
I'd tank with Hoyer. 0-16, 0-17. Let's do it.
No, 7-9 was painful enough.
Yeah, and you know what? At least if you go 0-4 or you go really bad, at least you have a much better draft pick. Being mediocre does nobody any good.
Why get people hurt? This isn't Pop Warner.
Because you get better. You
get better draft picks.
You get hurt for a little bit to be better in the long run. Yeah, otherwise, you're just constantly no good.
Yeah, but physically hurt. This is a contact sport. This isn't the NBA where you kind of say, you know what, I can miss 7 shots in a row and the coach will be gone next week. All right, at 15-1 odds, Joe Flacco. Come on, give me a break like Mel Carter. Are you kidding? Joe Flacco, 463 years old. All right. Mike Glennon, really? At 15-1? Hit that X. There's even no background on that guy. Jimmy G at 15-1. Give me the check mark. After seeing this story according to Pro Football Rumors, and I know it's a rumor, but but guess what? We deal in rumor and innuendo. The 49ers are interested in Teddy Bridgewater. So why would you have Teddy Bridgewater's $20 million on your books plus Jimmy G's $25 million on the books, unless you're looking that bad to move on from Jimmy G? So where I haven't been really sold on Jimmy G coming here, if I see a story like this, according to Zach Links, I've got to reconsider my options. Look, I'm not a totally closed-minded guy. All right. Blake Bortles at 20-1. Hit that X. Colt McCoy at 20-1. Hit that X. Tyrod Taylor at 20-1. Hear me out. Hit the check mark. Just as a consideration, right? Because, again, this is your $100 bet. And you want to win some money and you want to kind of be right. If the way to go is cheaper than cheap and someone who could proficiently run the offense and throw the ball, say, 12 and a half yards down the field versus 10 yards down the field or 6 yards down the field with Cam, Tyrod Taylor may be a viable stopgap option for a year or two. Is it my favorite? Clearly, no. But if you're looking for mobility and you know that you may have some O-line issues and you may not get the best of a receiving core, you're going to need to find a quarterback who can run on 3rd and 5. So I'll keep my options open on that. I mean, hey, if I put 100 down at 20-1, a nice little $2,000 plus my 100, 2,100 coming back is not a bad bet. Okay. Fitzmagic at 20-1. Give me the X. We all know how the Fitzmagic story goes. It's magical, and then it becomes unmagical the longer he's there. So why he looked so magical last year was because Tua looked so bad. I mean, I give it to Brian Flores. He's probably like, you know what? I need a relief pitcher. So if you're looking for a relief pitcher, Fitzmagic is your guy. Starting the season? Nah. All right. Sam Darnold at 25-1. Give it a check mark. You almost have to say, do I take a flyer on Sam Darnold because he's played for the worst organization over the last decade? He's played for the most inept coach, maybe over the last 20 years. Does this guy need a new spot? Perhaps to get his bearings back? He was the number 3 pick in the draft only a few years ago. You know his tendencies, you know his pluses, you know his minuses. Maybe not a bad bet. So Sam Darnold will put a little circle next to. It starts to get funny here. Geno Smith, 25-1. Give me that X. Well, at least he'll go down in history as the only black quarterback to start a game for the New York Giants in its entire history. So maybe you just keep that and tell your kids that, but don't come here. That horrible play. Matt Barkley, 30-1. And I forgot even RG3 at 25-1. Give me that X again. Guess who's 40-1? Mitchell Trubisky. Call me crazy. Call me crazy. I know people in the betting world probably remember a couple of years ago, if you bet EPL, there was a team called Leicester City. And Leicester City has historically been bad. And then they suddenly had this run. Their run was so incredible that the sportsbook houses tried to start making deals with the people who would bet Leicester would win because the odds were 50,000-1. But Mitchell Trubisky. Here's what's crazy. Do you know in 2019, Mitch Trubisky was the odds-on favorite in Vegas to win the MVP award? I know it's crazy. It sounds crazy like this guy's an MVP, but they even see something in Vegas that maybe I see. That this guy may have something if he gets around the right people. Chicago's a tough town. It's never had a quarterback since Jim McMahon. If you want to know how long ago that's been, when Jim McMahon left college, you know who was one of his offensive linemen? Andy Reid. That tells you how long ago the Chicago Bears had anybody really at quarterback. Eric Kramer for a second. Trubisky got to get out of there. But with Josh McDaniels and Belichick, the ability to run the ball when needed to, there's a strong arm there. The only question would be, what free agent would say, yeah, they would come here? Now, Allen Robinson, he'd probably be the first one to be like, oh God, no. But that's okay. I don't think Allen Robinson is what the Patriots really need in terms of receivers. We need receivers. We don't need just one. So maybe a Curtis Samuel out of Carolina, maybe Jamison Crowder in New York would be a good pickup. Maybe you get the tight end that's on its way out, Everett, in for the Rams, since he's the odd man out. You put some nice pieces together around Mitch Trubisky, and at a 40-1 bet, that's $4,000 plus your $100 coming back to you. Maybe not a bad bet. Now, here's one that's interesting, and it's the last one. Jameis Winston, 50-1. Hit the check mark. I recently told a friend of mine that I said, if Drew Brees comes back, because there were some stories that I won't regurgitate on the air that have floated around about how Drew Brees handles money. I said, if this guy comes back, it's financial. Now, if he does come back, he would play for the $1 million exception, for the minimum veteran exception. You saw the videos come out today where he was working out. I don't know if that was necessarily a play or a ploy, but you don't do workout videos and then, you don't shoot your shot and then walk away. Jameis Winston may be available. And what do you know? The 40-1 and the 50-1 odds could be the reclamation project that the Patriots need at quarterback. You won't have to spend a lot of money. How much money could Trubisky really demand? $8-10 million? That's not a lot. I always tell people who think like that's a lot of money to make. It's like, okay, well, if they make $8 million a year, they pay $4 million in taxes. Well, if you have to pay $4 million in taxes, to me and you, that's a lot of money. But to an NFL player, it's not like Desean Watson, who's probably, he's in Texas. But you make $40 million a year, you're paying $20 million in taxes. You're like, good gosh, I can rebuild my whole town with just the tax money. Jameis Winston only made about $1 million this past year. And how funny would it be if Bill Belichick says, Jameis, come on, I'll put you with Josh McDaniel, and then I'm going to do what Tom did to me. Oh, how rich. Yeah, I don't think that's just fantasy. That's just the script writer in me right there, right? All right, 617-779-7937. Got plenty of room for your phone calls, plus the text line 37937. It's KJ still coming up. We'll talk Celtics, plus some other NFL news that happened today that is pretty interesting, and a little take on what Russell Wilson is really up to. Hang out. KJ Late Night on WEEI.